This is Skip 101, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Before we leave this period of your life behind, you obviously were the driving force of a 30 for 30 straight out of LA about the Raiders. So, for those who don't remember, they were the Oakland Raiders, but they moved to Los Angeles in, I think it was 82. And you are at that point about 13 years old, maybe, right in that ballpark. And what it intrigued me because I was looking at this. You always had the Rams, but the Rams didn't do it for you. And the Rams, when you were, I think, 10-ish, around 10, they actually went to the Super Bowl that was played out here at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, but that didn't connect with you, I don't think, like the Raiders did.
I was going for the Steelers that game.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah,
Why?
Steelers fan. I mean, I just, when you're young, you connect to who's winning.
Yeah.
You know, I started, I went, Dallas won in 77. I was a big Dallas fan.
Oh, were you? I didn't know that. Okay.
And
Good for
then,
you.
here come the Steelers, and I became a big Steeler fan.
Well,
And
they
then,
beat the Cowboys the next year.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
and then the Raiders win in 1980, and I become a Raiders fan. So, when I'm 7, 8, 9 years old, you're just following the champs because you don't
Okay.
understand the game. But by 10 or 11, you're starting to understand the game. You're starting to really stick with a squad. And, it's your squad whether they win the Super Bowl or not. And
Yep.
so that's what happened with the Raiders in 1980 when they won in Philly. I mean, they won against Philly in New Orleans.
They did.
Shout out to Kenny King.
Whew.
So
He
he
had
had
a
a great
game.
game.
Yep.
Yeah, great game. And so they, that stuck. Like I was, when I was 11, I was still a Raider fan. Then and then they end up coming to LA,
Whoa.
and then this was my squad. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm a fan of all the players, from Cliff Branch, to Casper, just everybody on the squad. I was a fan of Jack Tatum.
Yep.
So they become Raiders, and then they go on and win the Super Bowl like a year or two after being a Raider, LA Raiders. So that was it, man. That just put the nail in the coffin for me as a fan, and I've been rolling with them ever since. And
Did you get to go to any games at the Coliseum in that formative stage of yours, 13, 14, 15?
Not a lot, maybe one or two games. I went with my brother. That was the last place I wanted to put my little money was to buy a ticket. So,
Yeah.
But I was still a big fan. And as we started to get famous and make money, then I was able to buy season tickets. And right about the time I got comfortable with that, they ended up moving in 94.
They did. Yeah. So your dad worked as like a groundskeeper at UCLA for a while, right? So did that catch you at all? Because that you experienced some of that wooden college basketball dynasty with Kareem and Walton, but I don't know if you were too young for it to get a hold of you.
Yeah, it was. I was a little too young for that era, but I was actually remembering more of. I was more of a fan of SC.
Really? Okay.
I love
Oh,
Charles White, and I
yep.
love Marcus Allen and Ronnie Lott, and just all the players they had. And I liked a couple of the Bruins, but for the most part, I was a big
Yep.
SC fan at the time. Even loved OJ back in the day.
Did you? Because
Yeah,
I sure
yeah,
did. I think a lot of people who remember that. Listen, when he was at SC, he was, he was the juice, man.
yeah. I was a little too young for his SC days, but seeing him with the Bills and
Yeah.
knowing that he won the Heisman for SC, I was a big fan.
So this was just me personally. I believe in Shedeur Sanders, maybe because I believe in Dion, but I did believe in Shedeur, and it upset me that your team had 7 chances to draft him and didn't draft him. Did it
Yeah,
did it hit you at all? Did it bother you at all? They had what, 3 third-round picks and 2 fourths, and at
yeah.
least somewhere in there you could have taken him, but that's just me.
It did bother me. I wanted him, but I understand. You know, I could see from a coach's point of view why not to take him, because you take him, you don't have a good season or two, Dion's getting your job.
He's getting your
You know what I
job.
mean? It's like,
There's no
so
doubt. Yep.
you
No.
be drafting your replacement. And I think a lot of owners, I mean, not owners, but a lot of coaches was like, no, I don't want to draft my
Yep.
replacement. So I think that might have been the biggest reason why he slipped. It wasn't because of how he plays on the field. It
No.
was probably because, they were scared to lose their job to Deion Sanders.
I I do agree. And then Dion made some remarks. He was on my show, and he talked about sort of maneuvering at the top of the draft because he thought his son was potentially going to go first overall to Tennessee, and he was going to make teams aware that no, he's not for you or you. I want him to go here. And I think the league said, okay, watch this. How about going to Cleveland in the 5th round? And that's where it ended up. And I just thought it was shameful, but that's just me. I
Yeah, he's definitely not a fifth round pick. So he should have went earlier. But hey, maybe this put some motivation on him.
It does. Yeah. If he gets a shot, he's got to get a chance. I think they got 5 quarterbacks now in Cleveland.
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
got a lot.
Okay.
So hopefully
So
he get a chance and do what he do.
so you got a new quarterback in Geno Smith, who's always
Yeah.
been pretty good, and I know Pete Carroll believes in him because you got a new coach in Pete Carroll. What's your gut tell you about next year for your Raiders?
Uh, we'll see. Like, I believe in Pete Carroll. I believe in Geno. I think, Geno started off with the Jets, was it right? Was
He
it
did.
Jets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't
And
go well. Yeah.
oh well, then
No.
then he went to Seattle and had a chip on his shoulder,
He
and
did.
uh, he did a good job, for them, and he definitely improved his level of play.
Yep.
So now hopefully he brings that same chip to LA. I mean to Vegas,
Yep.
and uh, has something to prove, and even takes his level of play to another level and get into the playoffs and make some noise. That's the hope.
That's the hope.